Welcome to this video where I'm going to explain and demonstrate how to conduct one of the songs for the new Hymns for Home and Church collection, Elijah and the Still Small Voice. So as we're doing the Old Testament this year and Come Follow Me, it's really nice to have some of these hymns that are really closely linked to the Old Testament. And if you go to the lyrics of the hymn in the Gospel Library, there's a link at the bottom about this hymn, and you can go and read about Alan Patterson, who wrote these lyrics. And he was inspired, of course, by the story of Elijah in the Old Testament. But what's really interesting as well is two of his children are deaf. And so when they were young, him and his wife were wondering how could they actually communicate with them and how could they help them to hear the still small voice. And they came to realize that in many ways it's more about the feelings that we have. And so even though they can't physically hear, his children can still hear the still small voice. They can feel that still small voice within them, and we can feel that as well. So it's a wonderful connection to have. In terms of the conducting, this is in 6/8 time, and so you have four options for how you can conduct in 6/8 time. So you can either do beating out each beat by doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you could also do each beat by doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so two groups of 3. But they actually suggest not using one of those, to rather conduct it in two. And I think it's because it just takes away from the mood of the hymn if we're going to be briskly conducting every single beat. So you're not going to do one of those. They suggest doing it in two beats, so you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I think it also works really nicely doing the altered 4 beat. So that's where you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you pause on 1, so for 1 and 2, and then you do on 4 and 5, you hold it both over there, and then you do beat 6 going up. So what I'm actually going to do is I've conducted it both ways, and you can look at how it is either way, and you can see what works for you. There is no upbeat, so your preparatory beat will take you to the top, and you'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or preparatory beat to the top, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So whichever one you want to be doing. The speed is 42 to 48 beats a minute, but that's for half of the bar. So as we're conducting, if you're doing the 2 beat pattern, it's going to be quite slow that you're doing it, because that's quite a bit longer than 1 second each, that each of those movements are going to be. If you do the altered 4 beat, it's going to allow you to move a little bit faster. So I like that one because I feel like it brings out the rhythm and the melody of this song quite nicely, but without it being rushed and without it just taking away from that feeling of the hymn. So just a nice one to be doing, can make that connection to the Old Testament, but for us to be learning, how do we hear the still small voice? And sometimes it's not hearing physically, sometimes it is more of a feeling. So I hope that there's lots to learn in this one.